Because I had so much fun doing Cinderella's ball gown dress from the live action movie, I've decided to take on another big ball gown. This time I'm going to be making Snow White's dress in a big ball gown form, so it's going to be a bit more of an original design with a few twists on it, but for the most part I hope that it's going to look very similar to the dress that she wears in the movie. So I sketched out what I want it to look like. As you can see, I think it's very similar to the dress in the movie. I've added a very long red train cape thing to the back of it, and I've also added some blue sleeves that will flow out. But other than that, I want it to be very similar and recognizable, and I just hope it's going to turn out very beautiful and elegant. For the skirt, I bought white brocade that I decided to dye yellow, but it actually ended up being a really big hassle and didn't really turn out. For various reasons, it wasn't working out dyeing this fabric on the stove, so my dad was really nice and ended up building a fire in our fire pit outside so that the heat would be better, but it still is very difficult. So I totally forgot to film finishing the dye process for that skirt, but let me show you guys the fabric and I'll show you how it really didn't work out and why I'm kind of annoyed about it and what I'm going to do to fix the problem. First, this is the fabric of how it looked before I dyed it. I really wanted it to be this beautiful brocade fabric. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a beautiful pattern on it. These are just the scraps, so they're not very big. And I wanted to dye it yellow, and this is what turned out. And now you may be thinking, well, that looks great, but I'll show you why it does not look that great. So when I first started dyeing this fabric, I was doing it on the stovetop because it's polyester and it needs to be really hot. But the problem was that the pot I was using to dye was not conducting the heat correctly. And so the very surface of it, or the bottom, where it was touching the stove was hot, but then the water on top was not. So what resulted is that pieces of this yellow fabric ended up really splotchy. So what happened is that the parts of the fabric that were touching the bottom of the dye where it was hot got really saturated, but the rest of it didn't. So now there's these ugly spots of yellow that looked like my pet peed on it or something, and it's really annoying. And also the fabric wasn't even getting dark in the stove because it wasn't hot, and that's why we had to build a fire. But now there's these terrible spots and I don't know what to do about it because this is polyester and it's really difficult to work with. I'm kind of mad at myself because I really forgot to film a lot of the making of this skirt, but another thing that went wrong is that when I was cutting out the circle skirt of the yellow brocade, somehow something got mixed up and it was incredibly uneven as a circle. There were some parts that were incredibly short and some that were too long, and the parts that were short were too short to where it wasn't going to work for the skirt. Because of this, I had to brainstorm and figure out a way to fix it. And what I ended up doing was cutting the entire circle skirt to be 30 inches instead of the previous 45 that I had cut it to be. And then I found a stash of yellow satin that I had in the closet, and I just added a long ruffle to the bottom hem. And I actually think I ended up liking it more than my original design, but it was very stressful in the beginning when I was figuring this out. As far as the splotches go on this skirt, I think what I'm going to do is try out the RIT color remover that they have because that's the brand I use for the dye. And even though this is polyester, I'm hoping that somehow it will work just enough to tone the yellow down from the splotches to the same color of yellow as the rest of the skirt. If this doesn't work, then I think I might have to add a sheer overlay of yellow to this skirt to kind of mask those spots, and hopefully it will just look like the lighting when you see the darker yellow. And yes, that is Dance Moms on in the background. It is just what I watch while I sew. Now that the skirt is mostly done, I'm moving on to drafting the pattern for the bodice, which is going to be very similar to the pattern that I made for the Cinderella dress. Although Snow White's original dress is more modest, I'm making mine less so in the fact that it will be off the shoulder and go a little deeper because I want it to be really elegant. Here is the first mock-up I've made of the pattern I just created, and I actually think it might work just for the first time. This is going to be a lace-up back, so it's going to be a lot easier to make than the Cinderella dress, purely because it just fits more sizes, so it doesn't have to be as accurate. So I don't think this will close up in the back, just so that I can give room, just in case like my torso is tighter or looser that day. and I think it will work. I don't have it pinned back or anything, so I can't really see the full fit because I'm alone right now, and so there's no one to help me with it, but I think it's good. I like where it's hitting on the shoulders, and I think the waist might need to be a bit lower down, but other than that, I really like it, and I think I might just go ahead and take this apart and use my real fabric. I did just realize that Snow White has that weird collar thing on her dress, and I don't know, I might just not do that because I really like the back, how it's a bit lower down, and I don't know if I want to raise it up to add that, so maybe I'll just add some lace above it on the neckline or the line in the back to give the illusion of one or the idea of it, but I don't know if I'm going to do the full on thing just because I totally forgot about it. So I'm working on the bodice right now, and originally I had bought a matte satin that I was going to use. I use this fabric a lot and I thought it would work nicely, but I wasn't really a big fan of the color. I mean, it would be fine, but I just didn't like the texture of it. I didn't like how it would look, and it wasn't what I was feeling. So I went through my stash of fabric and I found this royal blue velvet. But the only problem is that it's a stretch velvet. It's stretchy, and I'm not good at working with stretch fabrics. And I've tried working with this before, and I always have a lot of difficulty. But I might just try to use it because I think it would be so beautiful just looking at it. I think it'd be so pretty with the yellow skirt and the cape I plan on doing. So I might try to make it work, and hopefully the stretchiness won't be a big deal, but I think it would look a lot better than this. I really like this. I like how it looks. So I'm going to try to make it work. What I ended up doing was basting the velvet to a satin piece so that the stretchiness didn't really go anywhere, and then I sewed all the pieces together, and of course I have a lining. Now that I have it sewn together, I'm sewing this trim on these front seams. Now I know that I want to decorate this bodice to be as beautiful as possible, and I have all of these different methods of doing so, and I'm trying to figure out what I think will work best. In the animated film, she does have a line of gold. I feel like it's piping or something like that down the center, and I've been playing around with that, and I'm not sure if I like it because I've also added it right here. But I also have this applique that I accidentally cut up, so I'd have to put it back together, that I'm thinking about adding in the center front, but I'm not sure how it would look because I don't want it to be too busy. But I'm thinking about adding it there and then doing some rhinestone work and making a cute little design on it. So I'm just gonna play around with it and see what works the best. After playing around with that, I did get something that I liked, so it was time to put in the grommets, which is my least favorite part about making a dress, but it is necessary. It is now time for the sleeves, which is the part that I am most nervous for. I've never done slashed sleeves, so I'm kind of making it up as I go, but what I'm going to do is put interfacing on the right side of the fabric, and then I'm going to cut a strip down the middle, sew around that strip, and then turn the interfacing inside out. After I turn the interfacing inside out, or right side out I guess, I'll iron it down. So I haven't been filming a lot of the progress of this bodice because I keep forgetting, but I added these flowy sleeves to the inside of the puff sleeves that are basically, I think these are 30 inches long that I made them, and they're basically just gonna flow down and be open. And I'm currently rhinestoning them. I don't know if I love the rhinestones, but I wanted a little something extra, and I don't know why it's not focusing. So this is what I'm doing right now, and after that, I think the bodice will pretty much be complete. I also added some lace at the top of the back to give the illusion of that collar that she has. But other than that, I think it's pretty much done. Before I move on to the big reveal of the dress, I'll give you a little cost breakdown. Everything from the fabric to the trimmings to the beading to the thread was about $100, give or take, and I would say that's really good for a dress as big as this one. Now that everything's done, it's time for the big reveal of the dress. I know I say this every time, but it's probably one of my favorite things I've made, and I probably will continue to say that with everything I do make, but I am in love with this dress. I love how it turned out, so I'm very proud of it, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. Well, that's a wrap on this video. If you enjoyed watching me make this dress, don't forget to press that like button and subscribe for more videos like this one.